the scouts for coming. It's been a long time, but it brings back memories. It's good to see you guys. Congratulations, well done. We have several things on my agenda tonight that I would like to go over, so I know you want to jump right into business. I'm going to turn this over to John Trusty here in just a second to give our financial report, and also Lori to talk about the Lucy census. But also, I just want to remind you guys that it's now beginning budget season, and we will be soon having work sessions periodically where all of our department heads will be coming in to discuss their needs, personnel, equipment, those kinds of things, and their aspirations for the budget. The schools will be coming in to discuss their budget. So I want to make sure that's all posted, and I welcome all of you to those. Thank you, Charlie. I want to welcome all of you to those work sessions and participate any way that you can. They will be posted and they will start pretty soon. With that, John, go ahead with the financial report, please.
This is the report through the end of January. That's our first 7 months of our fiscal year. I'll remind you that we do have a 2-week delay in payroll from when people work to when they're paid. The payroll for January, there's a typo in the report I noticed, but the payroll for January is 2 pay periods. Year to date, we've had 14 pay periods, but we still have 12 to go. Again, I would remind you that we've got a number of revenues that don't come in until July and August for this fiscal year, so that what we collected last July and August is not included in this 7 months for a number of those revenues because of the way the accounting standards work. Overall, the city at this point is pretty much online with what we've budgeted and expected to both receive and spend, a few exceptions. General fund, our revenues year to date are basically the same as last year. There are 2 revenues that are running a little behind projections. Those are our local sales tax revenues. This is only in the general fund. This does not affect the school fund. The local sales tax revenue right now is running about 91.4% of the same period last year. That's for 5 months of collections. That's not for 7 months collections. Our city court fines are running at 57.5% of collections for the trend of numbers we have from fiscal 10 through 14. At this rate, our collections will only be about $280,000 to $300,000 for the year. Both budget and prior year collections have been in the $600,000 range, so that is a significant decrease there. Expenditures year to date, very good sign here, are $904,000 under last year at this same time. This reduction is because of several factors. First of which was the reduction in personnel that we had as part of the budget process. Secondly, under the management style that has been developed in the city over the last year or two, and particularly under the guidance of our current mayor and city manager, the other expenditures are under much more control. Before we buy anything, there has to be a written requisition and a purchase order issued. Nobody picks up the phone and goes and buys something and gets a purchase order over the phone. Nobody goes and buys it generally and then comes back and says, issue me a purchase order. People are being much more methodical in their decisions to purchase things. So all of that, and then also we've had some vacancies in our personnel positions that we've held up filling in some cases during part of the time. All of these things work together to generate that savings compared to last year. Year to date, our expenditures do exceed revenues by $567,000, although that is a much improvement from last month, and as I've said before, is standard in government, and you'll see that number continue to decline between now and year end. At this time last year, our expenditures exceeded revenues by $1.4 million, just as a comparison, so much better. At this point, I would expect our general fund should, at a minimum, break even this year, although assuming that revenues come in as projected, other than the 2 I've talked about, I think we have a good chance of actually contributing to fund balance this year, which has been a long time since we've done that, so that's a very positive sign on that. Capital Projects Fund, no significant activity this month. We are planning the paving that we've talked about in the past. We're waiting for the appropriate weather to get started on that and put those bids out. Sanitation Fund, revenues are $82,000 ahead of last year. Revenues year to date have exceeded expenditures by $157,000. At this rate, we will eliminate the deficit that existed at the prior year end of $187,000. But as I'll remind you, this does not generate any additional cash to spend for purchasing new equipment in this fund. This just gets us to break even on operations. The Water Fund continues to have revenues slightly higher than last year. That's a good sign. Revenues have exceeded expenses year to date by $58,000. That is also a good sign. We will be putting out the bid soon for the roof for the water plant. Again, for the North Water Plant, that has been delayed, waiting on better weather as well. The prior year deficit in the water fund of $2.6 million still exists, and we'll be talking about that at a future meeting as we discuss proposed rate structure and the MTAS review and recommendations on those rates for the water fund. Sewer fund is in very good condition. The revenues are $180,000 above last year at this point. Revenues year to date have exceeded expenses by $248,000. Our rate structure does appear to sufficient to cover our current cost, as well as the added depreciation that will occur once the plant renovations are put into service. Our contractor was given a start to work order in December. He started stockpiling equipment and inventory of the supplies he needs to actually start doing work. Other than that, all our other funds had no significant activity that was any different than what we expect budgetarily.
Guys, I want you to really think about what John said here that makes such an impact on the city on how we manage your resources. Expenditures down over $900,000 over last year. And we've gone from 567 to $1,004,000 in all of those savings. And at the last sentence here, we may even contribute to our fund balance this year. You know what that tells me? That means net income. So I want to really thank all of our employees, because without them, we couldn't do it. They are tightening their belts. They're doing exactly what we've asked them to do by thinking out of the box, using their resources wisely, their partnerships wisely. And I'd like to take a second for everybody just to give them an applause, because it's all your employees that are doing this for you.
Okay, I started working on the special census, and there are 290 homes in the newly annexed area of Lucy. I sent out first notices and second notices, and out of those, I received 190 responses. So that left us with 100. And after we gave them a reasonable amount of time to respond to the second notices, I met with John, Mr. Chesney, and Chief Graves, and we asked for help from the firemen. So, is Chief Graves here? I want to thank Chief Graves for helping us, because they've worked really hard. They've been working for the past few weeks. I think we still have 46 houses left. Are they?
Yes, we took the batch that Lori gave us, and about 2 weeks ago went through and did door-to-door to all those addresses. We got about a 50% response out of those. So we brought those back, and they went out this weekend or out tonight. So hopefully by the next day or two, I should be able to either give Lori a completed report on those remaining. So that will mean those citizens, that batch of 100 have gotten 2 visits door to door, and either they're not at home or they're not given the information, and then Lori can take it from that. So I should have the final count to her probably by the next day or two.
So as of right now, I've heard from 244 homes, equaling 603 people. So that's how much we've added as of today. So that gives us an added revenue amount of $63,315. So once I add the rest, I've created a big spreadsheet, which the state wants with all their requirements, and that's due March 1st. so I'll get that done in the next week.